In this video, we'll talk about adding and subtracting rational numbers. So let's go ahead and jump right into an example. So let's say I wanted to take negative 4/5 plus 2/7. Well, I don't really know what to do with fifths and sevenths. They're not really in a way where I can compare them in like ways. So we're going to do what's called, or we're going to alter them using a common denominator. We're going to look at the 5 and the 7 and think to ourselves, okay, what multiple do they share? And I'm thinking 35. So in order to alter this, I have to multiply this negative 4/5 by something, a fraction, and it has to be equal to 1. So how can I get from 5 to 35? Well, I multiply by 7. So as long as I also multiply the top by 7, I'm not altering the value of the 4/5. So this would become negative 28 over 35. That is 4/5. It's the same thing. And then, likewise, with the 2/7, I multiply by 5 over 5, which would land me at 35 on the bottom. And then as long as I do the same thing to the top, I'm technically multiplying by 1. I'm not changing the value of my fraction. So this would become 10 35ths. And then we can add. So then now, in essence, we can say, okay, this is going to be negative 28 plus 10 all over 35. In this case, we kind of drop the 35ths because it's like a unit almost, is what it becomes like. If I'm adding 10 inches to 10 inches, well, I don't get double inches. I just get 10 inches. Same with this. I have negative 28 35ths plus 10 of those 35ths. So you can almost kind of think of the denominator in this case like a unit. It's there for a label. And then we're going to simplify our numerator. So we're going to take negative 28 plus 10, which would be negative 18 all over 35. And that is how we would add two rational numbers. Now you could also take the decimal approach. In this case, because we're dealing with sevenths, it's a repeating decimal. I think that would be very difficult to do if you do end up using the decimal approach. Say you're adding a fifth and a fourth. Just make sure you line up the decimals very carefully. You can do it, but just be very cautious. And usually if you have any kind of repeating decimal, it's just better to go with the fraction approach. So let's do one more example kind of more in real time. So let's say I wanted to subtract 3/8 and 2/3. Again, I have a repeating decimal with the thirds, so I'm thinking we can't really use the decimal approach. So let's jump right into it. Let's make our alteration. I'm thinking a common denominator would be 24. So we're going to multiply 3/8 by 3 over 3, so we get 9 24ths. That's 3/8. And then similarly, we're going to multiply 2/3 by 8 over 8. So we get 16 24ths. And then we can combine our denominators in this case. And then we can subtract 16 from 9, which is going to be negative 5. So negative 5 24ths would be our solution in this case. And again, we could convert it to a decimal. We could do that later, but the fractional solution is totally acceptable.